Welcome to another episode of the TFTuesday Podcast. My name is Zell. It has been a week. I am happy to be here, and yeah, the weather has changed recently, actually. We finally got cold, spoopy weather, which is fantastic, in my opinion, and it has been sorely needed because we were hitting, like, 20 degrees in October in Toronto, and I was like, what the fuck is going on here,
That's
guys?
Celsius, Americans.
Yes,
remember that.
Sorry. That would be 68 in freedom degrees. So, you know. I'm joined by my illustrious co-host, K-Libra. How are you doing, K-Libra?
God fucking damn it. Yeah, it has been a week, hasn't it? And you know what? At least my week was ended with Silent Hill 2's remake, which so far I'm absolutely loving. And I really look forward to playing more of that. I'm also trying to get this shirt by my favorite Monster Girl artist. You just happen to be on it, but, it sucks when you don't have a credit card and they specifically want that. Just take my fucking money, will you?
Yeah, so many online retailers can be so fucky with the fucking, like, what payment methods they need. And as I know, you've tried to get it before, and they were like, "Oh, we don't like how the shipping worked, so fuck you, I guess."
I got an explanation for that, which is fine, and it makes total sense to me now. That was like a fuck up on their end, which made complications, but I don't have to think about that now. It's not complicated to sign up to our Patreon, as there are many options for people to actually be able to sign up viably. You can use like the whole PayPal or whatever the fuck. There hasn't really been a problem with signing up for Patreons and things in general. So I think it would be easy if you felt like giving us a little bit of your cash, within your means, of course. And, you could get into the Patreon server, and you could get the little bonuses of seeing art that we make early sometimes. You get little clips and blubs and whatever the fuck that comes off of this that doesn't end up on YouTube. And what is it? Raisin Room, chat with like-minded people. Mike-minded, good. I guess you get all that stuff.
Exactly. And sometimes you get to see animatics of me saying alien penis. So,
and me being a little drunk on the side.
Yes.
No, actually very drunk, but it's just the very little amounts of me being that drunk.
Seriously, it's a great clip.
So yeah, find out. Go ahead and find out, if you're that curious. I don't think you'll regret it, and even if you do, it's a low-risk investment, and then you could tell your friends anyway that we sucked or something, and that you could leave a viable review. Anyway, we got a guest reviews this morning, don't we?
Yes, we do.
It's morning right now. I'm not a morning person.
I'm really excited because it's been a hot minute since we had her on, but I always enjoy chatting with her. My very good friend Binty is here today. How are you doing today, Binty?
Hey, yeah, it's great to be back on here. Just like a famous yellow rabbit says, I always come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fantastic being on here. Thank you.
Yeah, and I know that you've done a bit of a rebrand since you were last on here too, technically.
I mean, I'm just fitting in with the theme of the podcast then, aren't I? If it's not personal identity, it's got to be my name, doesn't it? And then if it's not that, it's got to be my name again.
We love changes here, so I guess I'm curious to know just if you're comfortable with it, like what led to the name change?
Basically, it's just becoming sort of a year of self-exploring, and I've just come to terms with the fact that I love wolves and I love werewolves, and I remember back in the day there was a term called Wolfaboo, like weeaboo, and I was like, I kind of want to get into that sort of cringe sort of naming again, and I was like, what if I was Werewolfaboo? I was like, I love it because it's perfect. It encapsulates early internet cringe, and I'm all about that, like sparkle dogs and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that it's like a purposeful throwback to the aughts.
Is it? I mean, I guess if you want to add boo or anything to any prefix or suffix to something just to make sure that people know it's bad somehow. I guess that's what you mean, right?
Yeah, like, it's that, like, whole, because there was a whole like, well, to this one would be relevant. There's a whole like weeaboo or teaboo thing, right? So it's like kind of like a permutation of that.
I guess so. I wish people would catch on to a marabou. There are some.
A marabou. Oh my god.
I like how I call myself an Aussie boo because I, for some reason, keep coming back to everything Australian, and I've always loved Australian stuff, like the animals and like history and like the whole place and everything that I seem to really like is Australian. So I call myself an Aussie boo. So I just love I love the trend of naming everything a boo at the end if you like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do mean it derogatory. Hey, look, I'm from the United States, and
it's
I'm
called
like, please,
reclaiming.
And I'm like, please, fucking stop. No, this cannot be reclaimed. That's the point of what I'm trying to do. Like, yeah, I always come back. You know, I had I didn't know who the fuck you were talking about. I had to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
I did not know what Binty was talking about with the "I always come back."
Oh.
I just didn't care enough after a while.
Oh my gosh. Wait, so does this mean you're also a fan of Bluey?
Oh yeah, I adore Bluey.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Absolutely adore Bluey. I've got 2 little bingos on my computer as we speak.
Oh, that's amazing. I love it. It's funny. I know we're going on a very long tangent right now, but every time I see at like the furry con, there's like people who have gotten fursuits of those characters now, and they're like all independent people, but they've always go around together as like a group, like the whole family of the 4 of them. It's really funny and very cute. And I don't know. I always think about that when I hear Bluey. I just think of the people with the fursuits going around at cons. It's just very spontaneous and cute.
I mean, I guess it's spontaneous.
Well, yeah, no, it came together organically because the guy who got the bandit one, which is the dad, was the first one. And then I saw a Bluey, and then there was a Bingo, and then there was a Chili. That was the last one that I saw. But like they got them at different points, so they almost like consolidated together after they each got them to go around as a unit, which I thought was funny.
Weird. Okay, so wait, another thing, and yes, we're going to get to the fireworks factory, but does that mean, is it actually fursuiting, or is it cosplaying?
That's
Think
a great
about
question.
that.
That's a good question, actually.
Yeah, you could say, oh yeah, it's both. Everything can be everything can be overlap, but if you had to prioritize,
I think I guess if I had to pick one over the other, it probably would be cosplay because they're specific characters. And, you know, if you were to cosplay if you were to, outside of a furry convention, cosplay any of them, your costume would likely look very similar. So I think it would be cosplay first.
What about you, Binty? What do you think?
Yes.
God damn it, fine. Let's get to the fireworks factory then, I guess.
The fireworks factory. Well, I did have some topics, and it was interesting. I know Binty and I were chatting about this a little bit beforehand, but I know that like Binty, you've been like interested in dream-based TF for a little while now, and I wanted to kind of dig into that a little bit and get a better understanding of what like the draw towards TF situations involving dreams is for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know. I guess it happened since like obviously it's like something that's happened numerous times in real life, and it's always been a really interesting concept to me because it can branch out into so many things. But it's interesting because it's almost like the closest thing you can get to TF in real life in a way.
Yeah.
But it's also fun to see it from a third person's point of view, like when it comes to drawing, like seeing the person TFing in their dream or seeing the person TFing because of the dream.
Right. Yeah, you know, it's interesting to me because as someone who has had like TF dreams too, whenever I see it kind of integrated into transformation art, it definitely gives that sort of visceral like makes me think about the ones that I've had and such. And I think I know that some people haven't necessarily actually had them, so the impact might like feel a little less. You said you've had some yourself?
Oh yeah, I've had quite a lot over my life. There seems to be a reoccurring one, but there seems to be a couple of themes, and they kind of vary in the amount of detail. And the scenario seems to stay the same, but it's interesting because there's been a bit of a progression in one of the dreams I keep having, which is actually really interesting to me. Which was basically, sometimes I have a dream about being a bird, and TFing into a bird. But for the longest time, as a kid, as a teenager and young adult, I couldn't fly. But only recently have I been able to fly, and I found out it feels like I'm flying like a bird of prey, like gliding.
Right.
But it's interesting because I can feel it, and I feel the change and everything happening, like that run up and then that jump and then the flying that turns into the bird. And another prominent one is obviously werewolves or wolves.
For the wolf ones, have there been like any sort of consistent themes or a progression like with the bird one?
Yeah, actually. It seems to be like more and more of it happens as I got older. So when I was younger, it would just be a case of shifting slightly, but then as I've gotten older, it's more and more, and I feel more and more of it, and it feels like I'm running through woods and fields. Sometimes I'm interacting with things, like it all feels real, and like they get longer and longer, and sometimes the scenario changes, but I can still see everything clear as day. And it seems to focus on the shifting a lot more now, which is actually kind of interesting.
I wonder if the like increased focus in your regular everyday life has had an effect on how the progression goes and the changes that you've felt. Because I'm speaking more from my experience, but it always varies for me. But I find that when I have been particularly immersed in specific topics, it may not affect like the actual content of what I become, but it definitely can affect how much I end up like feeling in the dream itself.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes if I'm focusing on, say for example, Ellie, my werewolf, sometimes if I'm focusing on a scenario, that sometimes plays in the dream, but a lot of the time it seems to be a reoccurring dream of basically I shift and run away, or sometimes I'm running and there's like I wake up because of obviously like a car or something hits me, which is a bit morbid, but I guess that's one way of waking up. It's like that thing where you like jump in your dream sort of thing.
Yeah.
But those dreams have been consistent like throughout all my life. It seems to like resonate with me a lot, but it's weird though because I've not really done any dream TF. I was working on a comic that was based on the dreams that I've had, but I feel like it's something that I just like to experience in a personal sense, really.
Well, let's touch on the art a little bit, because I know it hasn't been something, like you just said, that you've explored a ton outside of like, working through some of the stuff in the comic. I know that obviously dream TF can refer to either turning into something within a dream, or you have a TF like happening in reality that matches what you're dreaming. And the former is something we've just been talking about. It's something you can actually experience, but the latter is a very common TF trope. So I was curious, when you think about those two things separately, is there one that you find more interesting, and why would that be?
To be honest, both of those are very kind of fun and interesting tropes on their own kind of ways. Like, I could get why someone would enjoy. I kind of like the idea of dreaming, like seeing the TF in the dream. But I do personally prefer the one where they shift at the same time, because obviously, yay,
I mean, yeah,
you're turning into the thing you're dreaming. I mean, who wouldn't want to turn into a wolf in their dream and then turn into a wolf in real life, you know what I mean? But it's interesting because, no pun intended, the two wolves inside of me are like, I like the idea of someone wanting to TF into something so bad that they dream it, but it's not a reality. So it's almost like a TF denial in a way, which I like. But also I like it. I like the idea of having someone actually TF in their dream and in real life, but they don't get to experience it whilst awake. And in a way, that's almost like kind of fun for me.
I want to touch on that TF denial thing for a second, because I think that's we talk a lot about, we love to change about this, that, or the other thing. You don't always hear a lot about, like, the TF denial is kind of interesting. Would you say, like, that appeals to you because of, like, a specific thing, or what's going on there?
Yeah, so, funny enough, I'm not all about turning into things. I actually do like being the one in control. And it kind of brings me kind of weird, like, enjoyment that sometimes someone who's like, TF me, and then you're just like, okay, and just poof TF, and they're just like, no, like, it's to me, that's like, it's like, you kind of have to fill it in yourself, or it's like the slow progression we've talked about a couple of times before. Yeah. It's almost like a complete opposite to that, and it's almost like a power play move, and there's just something about it that I can't quite put my finger on exactly why I like it, but I just like the aspect of missing out in a way, because it's like, something I know is that your mind could be like its worst and best enemy to fill in the gaps. And I know that, say for example, I'm just trying to think, like, you kind of poof TF someone or dream TF someone and they don't get to experience it. It's like, it almost heightens that, oh gosh, what did it feel like, sort of thoughts in your head, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you're like elevating the ennui of the situation, and it's like, I like to tie back to the, like, control aspect. I think, especially within the context of, like, BDSM more broadly, there is the appeal that people are drawn to in terms of, oh, well, if you haven't done X thing, then I'm not going to reward you. And the withholding of the reward is something that it can be very erotic, both for the person who's not getting the reward and also the person who is withdrawing the reward away. Like, obviously, it's like almost like, oh, you're being kind of a brat, so I'm not going to give you the thing that you want, sort of thing. And there's definitely an appeal to that in terms of, also playing a little bit into, oh, you expected me to do this. Well, I'm not that predictable. I do what I want. And in this case, I didn't feel like it. I definitely see the appeal to that. And I think, so many of the TF properties and, like, transformation media that we saw growing up was focused on, like, oh, you did this thing wrong, so now this is going to happen. And obviously, we'd all be, like, sitting there clapping and cheering as the person gets transformed. But when it comes to the media we engage with now, it's almost like, well, if we want to continue that sort of vibe, it's not about, oh, you've been bad, you're going to transform. It's almost like, you've been bad and now you'll get the thing, but definitely not in the way you wanted to. Like, that's the new almost like negative consequence that's been kind of extrapolated on transformation fans.
I don't know if that's really new. And also, I have a character that was supposed to express that very same thing, and I made her up, like, long fucking time ago, around the time I actually started getting an FA. It was for the same kind of reason. You want this, you want this, you want this from me, and I won't give you exactly what you want. I'm going to get exactly what I want. And, I knew exactly where I was coming from. Extreme spite and frustration. And I just wanted to take it out on people. It's like, if you're interested, I'm going to make something that I get to take control of. Because I want the control, and I'm tired of you people trying to make me do things and cajole me into doing things and, all that kind of shit. Really fucking tired of it. If you're wondering what character that is, it's Alessa. And it's Alessa, who fleshcrafts people, and she, like, poles and molds and all that kind of stuff is like, ooh, yeah, very sexy, and these scenarios I had in mind were people coming to her, they're asking, like, can I get this? I heard you can do this and blah, blah. And she's like, oh my God, it's one of you fucking people. And then on the off chances, it's just like, you know what? I kind of feel like being nice to you. Maybe I'll get close to what you want. But really, I knew exactly what I was doing with her, and that was just, it was my roundabout way of just really fucking with people who I felt were trying to fuck with me and get something out of me when I'm trying to do something that I enjoy, and they just like are trying to capitalize on it. That's just really fucking annoying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Actually, yeah, you've hit it on the head. Both of you have just hit it on the head there. That's what Bae is, basically. Bae's not exact same, but she's the same. You don't go up to her and go, hey, can you TF me? She'll go, nah. She's literally like, I ain't doing anything for no one. This is for me. And that's why Ellie can't actually, like, everyone's like, oh, I want to be bitten by Ellie. And it's like, she doesn't TF people via bite. That she's not that werewolf. So denied.
I can just imagine, like, someone who's like into like TF or like a furry or whatever is like, oh my God, bite me, and she's like, that's not how it works. It's like, oh, you're joking, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, okay, bites, and then nothing happens except, oh, now you have an infection.
I was gonna say, you got rabies now. Good job. You got cooties.
well done.
I also want to emphasize one thing, because it was brought up, like, oh, BDSM, and sometimes like the recipient, absolutely not. I don't care. I want to make it absolutely clear that you're not supposed to enjoy this and that you feel disappointed, because I think you should be.
Yes.
I fucking do not want, like there's no give and take. There's no dynamic. There's nothing to extrapolate. It's like, when you really think about it, this could be really sexy. No, fuck you, okay? I told you I wasn't a morning person. I also mean this anyway, but now you get the higher volume.
You do. It's funny because I definitely think that what you're sharing is actually the perspective that you and Binty are coming from more. I was more like, I'm trying to like intellectualize it, and you guys are like, no, just fuck these people. And I'm like, all right, fair enough.
You want to deconstruct it. I like getting to the why, and some people, they're like, I don't know, and they're like, I fucking know. I absolutely know what I'm doing. I'm not fucking playing myself. I just want to give people something that they like. I want to make sure that I make people happy. I have an audience, and they're very interested in me, and I thank them for themselves. Go fuck yourselves. Fuck all of you. God damn.
Can you tell which of the two of us is the people pleaser?
My brain wants to say, I can't tell.
I please a narrow number of people, a narrow group of people. I will please. I am
like that. Yeah,
I am in that respect a people pleaser.
Yes,
but only to the ones that are worthy of it, obviously.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Go ahead, Binty.
Sorry. I do get like where both of you are coming from, and I agree. Sometimes you just got to turn around and go. It's certain people that you gotta go. No, I don't want to give you what you want. That's not fair. I'm not here to be your people pleaser. I'm not here to be your TFer. I'm. If you want me to TF you, it's going to be on my terms, my progress, my way. And then it's just like, you get what you want. You pay. You get what you pay for, if they even pay for it. It's like, sometimes I like to do it because you get people that come up to you and go, oh yeah, can you TF me? And you're just like, okay, what do you want? And then they go, oh yeah, dog TF. And you go, okay. And then they go, but I want it like this. And you go, well, you know what? No, puff.
Yeah. It's like, okay, now you've asked for way too fucking much, like.
Honestly, yeah.
As Libra has said before, sometimes there needs to be a healthy amount of contempt. So I think that's an important piece here. I guess getting back to like the dream stuff specifically, have there ever been any like scenarios related to like TFing while like a dream is happening that you found like creatively interesting to explore at all?
Is it bad to say I can't think of anything on the top of my head? Like,
no, that's totally okay.
To be honest, honestly, it's a weirdly untapped market for some reason, or should I say trope, that at least that I haven't seen. I know that there's people like, I'm sorry if I'm misremembering, cold's got me really bad, but I think Libra does a lot of like, at least like bed sort of stuff. I'm not entirely sure if I'm being correct, but other than
That's
that, I'm not. Sorry, like scenes where they're in bed or something, like it's more bedroom orientated.
I feel it's because it's a huge fucking kink of mine. So I think of taking it to the bedroom, and I think of it as being like a private thing to enjoy, and something that if somebody else is involved, it's kind of like your own little world. And I think bedroom settings are just great for that in general, and also just like it just allows for things to just go wherever. I feel like if something starts in a bedroom, it can affect everything else.
Absolutely. I honestly, I love it. I love it so much. Like, I love your stuff for that reason. Like it being centered in the bedroom.
I very much appreciate it, but you know it's another thing, and this is never something that I never meant. But a bedroom can be a really easy setting to also just make. You just imply sheets and everything like that, and it's fun.
I know, right?
Good, and it adds to the mood. You know, made this like this monocolor snake painting long ass time ago, and that's supposed to be in a bed. And is there a bedroom that you can see? No, but you get the picture, and it just looks nicer that way. Yeah. Plus, fabric practice. You know, you get some of that.
Oh yeah. No, there's a lot you can imply. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. I was like, yeah, I totally agree. Other than that, I know it sounds really bad, but I generally can't think of anything that's kind of stemmed off it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. It's interesting because I think... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, something's just popped into my head. I'm so sorry, my dumb doggy brain.
All good.
The most famous example that I know of is Wolfwalkers.
Oh, yes.
That's one that's really stuck with me ever since I saw that film. Mainly because I kind of feel like it relates to me in a way. Like, that's how my dreams normally go, like turning into a wolf and stuff, but...
Yeah.
That's actually a really interesting concept of you've got your body and then it comes out, like it's almost like a weird spiritual thing and it takes a physical form. So that's a very interesting concept that I actually really like, and I'd love to explore that with Ellie.
Yeah. I still have to watch the movie, but I've seen some of the clips, like, in part, and I think it's a really, really interesting concept, and also just a beautifully made film.
It's gorgeous.
General.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
I'm a massive fan. I've got the concept book, I've got the storyboard book, I've got a t-shirt. I'm a huge fan of it. I mean, I'm living up to my name, so...
Yeah. No, I love it. I think, though, you also mentioned something earlier that, you know, I think is an interesting point in that, especially more recently, I haven't seen as many people trying to, like, quite depict it, of, like, you know, you're TFing and then, like, there's the dream happening. And I almost wonder if part of the reason why is because then you have to draw the TF twice, in a sense, because it's like, okay, you have the person in bed who's maybe, like, changing and dreaming about whatever, and then you have, like, the dream where, like, they are experiencing the transformation, or they've already hit, like, their natural form or something. I remember there was, like, a really old picture, I think it's on transfer somewhere, and it's by Foxy, and it's got someone who's, like, imagining, like, they're having a dream where they're already a hyena and they're, like, hunting, and then they're TFing in real life, and so it's that contrast of, like, having to draw it twice. And I almost wonder if the reason why then you don't see a lot of that, especially more recently, is because it's like, well, then I have to draw it twice, and, like, fuck, I already did it once, I don't want to draw it a second time.
Honestly, I can't blame with the way that the world works.
No.
It's just like,
I don't blame them at all. I'd be like, yeah, fuck that.
It's like my comic I did, and I was so psyched for it, and I was like, oh yeah, I've done the first page, and I sketched the second page, and I'm like, no, that's it. I might go back to it. You know, I really want to touch on that subject because it is such a impactful subject to me in a way. I think another one that I think I literally just remembered as we were talking. Another one that recently popped into my head is one that my girlfriend's actually done, which is I can't remember if she's actually posted it or not, but basically at this point she will. It's basically someone turning into a nightmarish dragon form, like something that's not meant to be released is released, and they're shifting in their sleeps, And then it's
okay.
but then it turns out it was just a nightmare, and they woke up, they wake up and they're just like, oh gosh, like it was a drunk nightmare. And I was like, I literally was watching her do it. I was like, that's such a cool idea. Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Interesting.
Well, sorry, go ahead.
You're talking about all these fucking pieces. Don't either of you remember an artist called 12TF?
No, actually. I've never heard that name before.
No? Not you, Binty, either?
I probably, somewhere in my hollow little brain, probably do remember. It does seem to ring a bell.
Okay. Well, one of the pieces that I remember immediately when you were talking about this, I was actually kind of surprised that this did not come up directly in the discussion. 12TF is an artist that hasn't been active for years. I see like on FA was the last post was 2021 and just dropped off, which is whatever. But I was following 12TF like really early on when I started to even like post and knew where to look for shit. So this beautiful piece of work that you should see in the session recording chat, this thing stays in my head, and and I just really think that it should be in the conversation, because the idea is that like you're just turning in your sleep, and also that it's real, and I just like the effect that it's slowly burning everything around, and it's just great. It's just great.
Wow, yeah, no, I've literally never seen this before. This is actually fantastic.
Yeah. If you haven't seen 12TF, it's just 12-TF, no spaces or anything like that. They have a gallery that started on DA and then they went to FA, but this is some of like the most outstanding art that I have seen that just hasn't come back since. I don't know, shit's weird. People come back every now and again to throw one thing out. Feels like for old time's sake or something, but check it out. Really do.
Yeah. I definitely will. I'm just looking at the gallery now.
Binty, I'm sorry. It sounded like you had something to say.
No, sorry. I do this thing where I'm like, no. Honestly, yeah, I'm looking at their stuff right now. I remember their stuff now, because, yeah. But that right there, like, for example, what you put in the chat is, like, exactly what I love. Like, it's the fact that you're sleeping, but you're shifting, but it's like it affects the environment around you. Like, it's so good. It's very inspiring.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I need to do more stuff like that. need to do more bedroom settings as well. I forgot how nice it is.
Yeah, I was gonna say, look at that, another bedroom. Yeah.
Yeah, another bedroom. Oh man. Nice. Well, I think also I just wanted to touch on, because, we've been talking about it so much. If it happened to you, would you be disappointed if you TF'd while you were dreaming, but you missed the changes entirely?
Well, that's an interesting. I guess if I feel it TFing in the dream, or I feel something happening, I'd be quite content with that, because, I mean, it might be a painful TF because your body's, like, shifting and molding into something it shouldn't really be doing. So maybe actually sleeping it off is probably the best thing that could happen. But in all reality, I just like the idea of shifting, really. I'd be actually quite happy if I shifted in my sleep and woke up and as the actual thing.
Nice.
Depending on what it is.
I feel like I probably, like, to answer the question myself, I think obviously I'd love to experience it, but honestly, I'd be fine. I wouldn't mind too much. People talk about like poof TF or like whatever, and like obviously I'm all about the process, but if I get to be something cool at the end, then I don't give a shit. Like I'll happily take it.
I know, right? We take what we get.
Yeah, exactly. We are grateful for whatever changes get given to us. So
we thank our poor toy Jesus for this blessing.
Yeah, thank you. I inflated for your sins.
It makes me think of this old topic that I heard long ago where somebody was griping about media, and I don't remember exactly what, but it's stuck in my head about the fantastic becoming mundane and how like dissonant that is, you know? So
Yeah.
it's like just really consider, like, oh yes, think about having the genuine opportunity or happenstance, or whatever the fuck, however you want to frame it. There's a chance, there's a universe, there's a setting that you could be something or someone else entirely, and what you really care about is how you get there. And it's like missing the entire fucking point. Oh man, there's nothing more nightmarish than getting my dream body but never ever feeling it on the way there. That's nightmarish? What the fuck is going on? You gotta reevaluate your shit. That is fucking wild. You can be a little disappointed, but it's like, earlier, the insistence that it has to be, it can't be poof. There are those people, it's like, oh, poof TF. Oh, fuck off, man. I love process. It's what I fucking make. And I don't really want to hear any of you fucking complain, because I think you forgot how much work it takes to make that shit look good too. And sometimes you're just kind of like, tell me the story around it if you weren't going to do that. And that's really what I would like to see if I'm going to like, oh, come on, man. You can fuck over yourselves.
Well, I also think just about, like, you know, and I, you know, obviously everyone comes in different shades, but, like, I think about my, like, Sona forms, for example, and it's like, would I want to be them even if I didn't get to experience any process? It's just 1 second I'm me and the next one I'm that. Abso-fucking-lutely, I would take that in a heartbeat. Like, I'm sorry, maybe it's just because I'm starved for it, but, like, I'd be grateful for that period, and I wouldn't complain about the no TF. Like, if you're telling me I just get it and I just it's a poof TF, fuck yeah, I'm gonna do that. Like, I don't know. Oh man. I guess I had one last question actually about the Dream TF, and then I want to move on to the other topic. But I know that sometimes when it comes to Dream TFs, it can be from, like, either a hyperactive imagination, or there can be, like, an external force that's, like, working magic on someone, or sometimes it's like a nightmare / curse. Of those three, are there any that you're particularly drawn towards?
I've got to be honest, it's definitely the nightmare / curse. I like my more darker subjects. I'm not a happy-go-lucky TFer. I like it dark, I like it kind of... But I also... I like it dark. I like the more nightmare / curse sort of aspect of it. I do like the idea of the hyper, like, active imagination as well. The idea of you thinking about something so hard that when you're in a state of calm, you TF, and that's the one time you TF is when you're able to sleep, because you're in a relaxed state, you're breathing, you're still. But I do personally I do like the more cursed and nightmarish one, just because I don't know, I think because I'm old. I'm getting old now. I'm just like, I'm so sick of seeing happy-go-lucky TF. I'm just like, nah, give me my dark stuff again. I like it.
You missed the mean.
I do. I missed the girl. I miss being bullied. I miss the TF bullies. Like, I miss being miserable as I TF.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. And, you know, I definitely think a lot of transformation stuff, I don't know, maybe this is just because of, like, seeing how, like, stuff on the internet used to be versus now, but I definitely agree there's been more of, like, a trend towards, you know, like, happy empowerment, which is all great, but also, like, there is something to be said for the mean streak stuff that I feel like is sometimes a bit less prevalent, or people come at it, like, whole hog, and they're like, I'm going to be the meanest person possible, which I'm like, hey, you know, you do you, so.
Yeah. Like, it's a bit of a mild little rant. It's my little rant corner second, but it's like, again, it's kind of like when it comes to Ellie, like, people go, oh, just give her pets and stuff like that, and it's like, her gimmick is that she can't control her TF. Her gimmick is, if it's a full moon, you run. If I'm drawing a big scary werewolf or a big scary bear or something that's obviously unwilling or curse or something like that, and you sit there and go, oh, how is that a curse? And it's just like, I'm sorry, but please let people enjoy things that are not always nice. you know what I mean? If it's not hurting, if it's not like, you know, being actual like a mean thing, let people enjoy something that's unwilling. Like, not every, I think people forget that sometimes a lot of the TF tropes were not always happy tropes, and some people are allowed to like not happy tropes in TF.
Yeah.
I have a perspective on this, and let me see if this also resonates with you. Because, for one thing, both of you feeling like there's a trend toward the nicer things, I don't see that. But I also realize that the more I talk to Zild, the more we didn't overlap in what we've found over the years. So there's this perspective of, oh, there's a ton of this stuff, and there's this pervasive attitude, and I'm like, really? Because this is what I've noticed. And then we kind of expose each other to that. So that's one thing in terms of trending and like a general attitude. Because as far as I'm concerned, people are still generally really fucking mean. But in terms of that meanness, you know, and this resonates still with the very first thing about contempt for the audience, which is when people give you the little hee, that's not really a curse. Oh no, not me, right? But it's upsetting because when you're trying to express something and you want to get an idea across, and somebody comes along and seems to assert their subversion to your narrative, you're in on it. You already understand that you can subvert it. And you have, oh, is this really supposed to be a bad thing? Not this time. And you do that when you want to do it. But when you want to do something else and people are still reacting that way, it's fucking frustrating. It fucking is.
Gosh, yeah.
That because there have been times where I have wanted to do like Monster People or Monster Girl or something, and they'll be like, oh, I wonder what she's like when she's done changing. I'm like, that's it. That's what it is. Why the fuck? Like, look at the tags. You just really want to see what you want to see, and it is frustrating because, again, like art. A lot of art is communication in a lot of ways, and when people like don't seem to understand it, even though you're supposed to be in the community, and you just keep doing that, and it just breeds a lot of fucking animosity. And that's why I get upset with people too. So I don't know. Maybe that's in there somewhere too for you.
Yeah. I think, I mean, first of all, I agree. I think also that frustration of people reading something else into the intentionality of an art piece. You know, I mean, there's been plenty of ink spilled on, like, you know, death of the artist and such. But at the end of the day, when you are in a community like furry where the distance between the art piece and the artist is almost zero, like, if you have been communicated what the intention is behind a piece, and then you go out of your way to try and subvert it to make it work for yourself, but also, like, vocally do that back to the artist, it's really disrespectful. And I completely agree with both of you in terms of that perspective, because it's like, man, I'm trying to do something, and I'm trying to communicate something, and I've been very clear not only in how I've crafted the piece, but also how I've presented it to you, the narrative I've attached to it, what have you. To then hear back, oh, but, like, what if it was this specific way that I like that you definitely didn't think about? It's like, man, what the fuck? What are we doing here, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree.
Yeah, and I know that tone is hard to read, but here's another fucking memory that popped up in my mind. It's one of the most wildly successful pieces of work that took a couple of hours and a fervor of, I really want to do this incredibly self-indulgent thing, and I am still happy with it when I look at it. But there's a comment that was left under it that asked, it looks like it feels good, or does it feel good, or something like that. Is she enjoying it? I think that's what it was. But I said self-indulgent, and there is, like, clearly dripping pussy, and I'm thinking to myself, I kind of want to kick your ass, dude. That's fucked up. That's really weird. Are you fucking with me? And people would be like, oh, no, there's no way somebody would think, like, oh, yeah, they're just playing with you. No, I don't think they're playing with me. Trust me. Listen, if you're one of those people who are thinking out there, it's just like, oh no, you're just being too hard. You got to interact with more people. There are some fucking frighteningly dumb and or dense motherfuckers, and it's so frustrating. You, like, talk about ignoring the intent of the piece. I gave you this incredibly obvious niche horny, and you're still like, does it feel good though? I don't know, man. Some people say that when I snap their backs it feels good, but sometimes it doesn't.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think we've all run into, commissioners who have that angle to what they like to, and it's a time. It's a time. I did want to make sure that we got to a little bit on the world building side, because I know that you've mentioned a little bit earlier too, that you've been working kind of on like a comic project in the background. You shared like a few teasers and such, but like there's still like very much like something that has been put on the back burner, which I think is totally understandable given all of the other stuff that you work on. I had a number of different questions, but I want to start off with like what kind of inspired you to even like create a comic in the first place.
It came from, funny enough, this one actually that I've actually finished sketching came from basically a sense of burnout when I was at my lowest, and I just felt creatively drained because I've been pumping out the same thing over and over again. I wanted to do something for me and only me, and it was literally meant to start as a simple little thing which grew and grew and grew. So it's a world that is familiar, and the characters in a way are familiar. It's meant to be a self-insert basically because it was meant to be for me, but it's grown way more than I thought, to the point where I'm actually like, I think I can do this. But I literally sat there and I was like, what if I create something that was still in my interests, but actually something that isn't meant to please audience? If it pleases people, fantastic, but this is solely meant to be a passion project of mine. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. I think that it's so important that we work on things that we care about, because otherwise we'll just, like you said, completely fucking burn out. And if you burn out, like, then that's it, right? Like, it can take a really long time to recover from creative burnout, and especially when so much of your time gets focused on creating art for other people, it can be so easy to just like exhaust yourself completely. I know that I've been through that. I think most artists have been through that, and it can be really difficult to work back towards a place where you actually can feel comfortable creating art again. So first of all, I think it's great that that's kind of where the birth of this came from. And I guess I'm curious to know a little bit more about like, how did you approach like building out the setting and the characters and such for it?
Well, I basically went with an idea of what do I like at the time, like what was going to be easy for me but also fun in a creative sense.
Yeah.
And one of the things that kept pointing out to me was a fantasy setting, but it's not like, I don't know, like an established setting like D&D or something like that, or like an existing one. It's one that is familiar to people, but in a way that's, it has its lore set out. It's something that I create and solely create. And at first there was going to be like a different story to it at first that I was going to add, but actually I ended up going down a different route, which I kind of prefer. That was more fourth wall breaking than before, but that was it got a bit too complex for me, so I ended up kind of going back and kind of making it a bit more like based in that current fantasy setting. And I feel like a fantasy setting was probably the best bit because it is so vast. It's something I really like. I'm a fantasy girl. Because it's like old worldy mixed in with like myths and legends and stuff. It's very heavy on the sort of whimsical and sort of out of there sort of thing that isn't so techie, sort of like sci-fi stuff. Like, yeah. I'm not the best at drawing tech, and I'm basically making this as easy and as fun as possible for me. The characters are kind of a mixture of something traits I like. The two main characters, for example, are kind of basically what I would be and what my partner would be, really. I literally just went up to her and said, hey, what would you want to be in the set? And she went, this. And I was like, okay. But we worked with it and changed some of the lore behind what she is compared to what I am. It's almost like a role reversal in this world, which will be explained in the comic a bit more. But the rest of the characters that you meet are more so just flexing my character creation muscles, really, because this is literally just been a whole project / exercise on working on things I haven't been able to work on for a while, like world building, character building, expressions. A lot of it is expressions and storytelling without it being so heavy on the sort of writing. And it's more so exploring this world with these characters and the bond between the two of them, as well as other characters.
Mm-hmm. I think that's really cool. And, you know, one of the things that I really like in particular is that you had almost that you did still take like a little bit of external input in terms of like creating your girlfriend's character and such, and then building that in. And I think the other thing that just really stands out to me is, you know, given that fantasy is such an important focus for you, and it's something that's enjoyable and also makes it easier for you to actually draw the things, like, it allows for you to maximize the creative, like, I guess the word I would use is almost like restoration in a sense, because you are allowing your creative energy to draw to like drive the project itself, and that allows you to feel less like it's, oh, you know, it's something I have to like work through or whatever. It's like, well, yes, obviously there's work going into it, but it's also something that is very focused on what you would like to see, and it's the story that you kind of want to create. And I think, again, like, especially when there's so much like doing work for other people, that makes it even more important to have a project like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the idea of doing the thing that you like to completion. You balance that as best as you can, but that's really the most important thing. I think I've been trying to do that kind of thing lately, and it's been good. And you know, it's a very messy process for me. I'm sure it feels messy for most people, even if I find them to have a way easier time, be way better than me. But I'm gonna be less self-centered, less woeful about it, and assume that for everybody this is a fucking messy process, but it turns out to be worth it as long as you allow yourself to have the time, and if it does turn out to have an eager audience, to just let them wait. Let their suggestions fall mostly by the wayside. Stuff like that. It's like, it's that kind of thing. And everybody needs that, because art is selfish. Even if you're giving it to somebody else, or doing it for somebody else or for something else, it's because you fucking believe in it or feel like it. I feel like this kind of point gets brought up a lot. I guess, you know, in case you haven't listened to anything else that has us talking about this stuff, put it in your head and keep it there, please. And water it so it'll grow.
Yeah, I completely concur on that front. I know that the comic also has, like, it plays a little bit with, like, isekai tropes, and I was curious to know what about isekai really reeled you into using that as a base concept.
It was probably inspired by the fact of, like, I was kind of inspired by an anime I was watching recently, and I was like, I can't remember what it was. It's one of those ones with a really silly long name. It was something about putting on my points in defense or something like that. Basically, it's just like an online. It's like these people play an online game and stuff like that, but it shows it from the perspective of the game. But which again is in a fantasy setting. And
is it? I don't want to get hurt, so I'll max out my defense.
Yes, that's the one. Like, me and my girlfriend were watching that, and I fell in love with it because it's just more character based. And I was like, it's just so a nothing burger, and I was like, oh my god, I love this. Like, I love my nothing burger anime. And I was just like, I've always been interested in it because it's such an interesting concept, and in its way, and funny enough, in its own way, it's kind of like, well, it's TF.
Right.
Especially with what's happening in this one. It's basically, it's not just their world change, is they change as well. So they're trying to not only adjust to the new world, they're trying to adjust to their new bodies and stuff like that. And I always liked that concept of, and I think it stems back to a lot of media I watched when I was young. When I was younger, of stuff like The Shaggy Dog, Brother Bear, and where they just kind of have the character experiencing something different and adjusting to that and such. But yeah, sorry if my brain's gone blip.
No. I really dig that. I think, I mean, Isekai is a trope that I think obviously lends itself to TF inherently, just because it's like you are going from one place to the other and now you have to fit into the setting. It's such a classic TF trope. So I definitely see the appeal. I think also, like, you know, depending on who is creating the work, you know, you can play around with, oh, well, if I showed up here, now I'm actually going to have to match, and that means I'm going to change within the setting to fit it. Whereas, you know, if that's not really your thing, you will have plenty of people be like, well, no, it's just you woke up in the new thing, and that's that. Well, here we go. Both of which are, as we've said before, entirely fucking valid. So I think that, you know, when it comes to Isekai, it can be an interesting way to kind of, I mean, at its core, it's a fish out of water narrative. And so playing around with how the person adjusts to the setting and how are they going to deal with their new form and such. I mean, it's a little bit post-TF-y, kind of. But it's also about,
that's
you
the
know,
whole fucking
I mean,
thing.
yes, it is the whole fucking thing. I said that with a heavy amount of sarcasm.
Okay, cool.
The thing I'm trying to say is, like, I think that when it gets tied to transformation, it's, I mean, beyond just being inherent, I think it can be something that can still come back later in the narrative too, because other people can end up there as well, or it can be part of the setting, like, you know, in a fantasy sense, or you can just fucking abandon it completely. And so it allows you to be as in tune with or as separated with the concept of transformation as you want, and having that ability to control how much you want to link it back to the transformation trope, I think, is very empowering.
But it's interesting because this comic isn't just like an Isekai comic. It's obviously got a character that has it. Let's just say it does link back into TF. So people who are following me who might be interested in a comic aren't going to be just cold turkey, shall we say. It's not just going to be, oh yeah, different world, different body. There is definitely going to be some fun goodies later on, just how I want it to be. So
yeah, no, I fucking dig it. All right, so I gotta ask, if Libra and I got isekai'd, what creatures do you think we'd become in your setting, and why?
I know it sounds weird, but I think Zil would be a Tor.
Okay.
But like something cool, like a I'm trying to think of an animal, like a bear, funny enough, like a bear owl sort of tall, something big and meaty and beefy.
Yeah.
Something like heavyweight champion, sort of like lift body sort of thing.
I love it. Yeah, no, I could see that.
I know it's gonna sound generic. There's two inside me that I think Libra would be. One would be a Hydra, maybe, or maybe like I'm trying to think what they're called. Just basically like a snake person. I know that's probably generic, but
Oh, you could just say Sphinx if you mean generally a creature with human head or very human face, and the rest of it pretty much whatever the fuck. Is that what you're talking about?
No, Hydra. Like multiple.
I know, I heard Hydra, but I thought I was hearing something like Hydra or blah blah blah.
Yeah, I think I can't remember. You know, where the half snake body.
There's like Lamia, Naga,
That's
whatever
it.
the fuck that stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, the Hydra is a very interesting choice. Like, okay, lucky for me, I can dig the whole snake motif, but I gotta know why Hydra.
I don't know. Just my brain popped into my head. Probably because
fine with me. I whatever, man. It's at least very different, and I wouldn't have expected it. So
I would
cool.
like to see a Libra with multiple heads,
and that could suck. I'll have to get used to it.
It would be something to grapple with, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean. Oh well. It's really funny how you just fed into Zill's jock arc and shit like that.
Yeah,
I feel like you did it on purpose, but you know, here we are.
Just.
Well,
Yes.
at least
it's almost like I've asked Binty to draw stuff in that vein before.
Yeah, I mean, at least the question didn't end up with like a Tokyo Revengers type of answer. Sorry, did either of you even know anything about that show? Like, you just heard it on the wind? No, just the broad brushstrokes is like this guy fucking wakes up in the past in his own fucking body and realizes that he's gonna try to change things, and you know, he tries and he tries and he tries, and each time there's like an arc or a thing he finally did, things just get worse and worse and worse in like different ways. It's just like, oh, so now that I did this happened, and then it's like, oh, okay, which is exactly what I wanted, except now this is the case. What? And it just keeps getting worse. And it's so fucking bleak. And that story ended, and I don't remember how it ended, but it was really starting to piss me off because I'm like, just stop. Haven't you learned already that you need to stop?
Oh my goodness.
Oh yeah, there's Bada Titty you with yeah, there you are.
Yeah, there I am.
You just
know
want to
me.
be groped. You want to be groped randomly.
I'm not. I'm not saying no to that.
You want to be groped randomly, but also be able to, like, if you don't like the grope, just grab somebody by the top of their head and get some kind of penance immediately. That's what you really want.
Yes, thank you. You've read me to filth. Honestly, yes.
Okay, but I have to draw over Zlepa and Libra with this meme. Just Libra staring
Oh
at
my
the
God.
titties.
That is what I aspire to, and always, yes. That is the body I want.
Yeah, she looking like, I wish that were me.
Yeah.
She's about to visit the Grand Canyon.
Oh my God. Okay, last question on this, and then I know there's like one or two audience questions I wanted to squeeze in. I know that there's obviously like going to be transformation playing into your comic, but it's not the only focus. I was just curious to ask, like, what sort of non-TF themes are you trying to build into the comic, and anything that might come as a surprise to readers?
To be fair, I'm gonna be fair. I mean, it happens when it happens. I mean, this whole comic is a surprise for me. It has no real story. It's literally a garden, a seed that I've just planted, and I've just kind of rolled with it, really. But to be fair, there are some aspects I've been thinking about that might come as a surprise later on that I might add. But to go back to your question, to be fair, this comic is more touching upon character building / like building bonds and exploring self-identity in terms of not only just like kind of themselves, but it's also like relationship wise and such.
Yeah.
It's very character driven, and feeling just kind of like finding your place in a world that you feel like you don't exist in is a heavy topic I want to put in to this. Obviously, it's gay as heck. It's even my girlfriend's looked at some of the pages and gone, yeah, that's gay. Keep it in. That's very gay. Keep it in. And I'm just like, yeah. But it's more about self-identity. This comic is, weirdly enough, in a kind of just me trying to express how I feel in a visual way that isn't just me going, I feel lost. I don't know who I am. What do I like? What am I? I don't remember who I am, sort of thing. It's like, it's literally, it's like that, but in a way that's an abstract sort of way of showing it, other than telling it.
Yeah. It's a way to work through things that you're grappling with right now, but in a separated enough way that it doesn't make it too complicated, you know? It's like, we have a little bit of separation from the two so that we can work through this in a healthy way, kind of thing.
Exactly, yeah, exactly that. Like I said, this comic was spawned from feeling lost, alone, and just completely burnt out, not with just art, but life in general. And then in this way, this comic has given me the passion I needed to keep going and keep doing what I love. So I'm putting how I feel into the story, and a lot of tropes or parts in the story kind of connect with what I've gone through without it being so in your face, if that makes sense. Like, it is definitely a self-exploration sort of comic, and just kind of to come to terms with things that you can't always control, shall we say.
No, that totally makes sense to me, and honestly, I think every art piece we make has a little bit of either ourselves or the things we like in it. And so I think using that as a way to kind of parse through things that are going on in everyday life is, such an important outlet. God, every single D&T campaign I've written is like that. So, like, all I'm trying to say is I agree, and I can heavily relate to that as a concept.
I mean, that's great to hear, actually, because that means, hopefully, cross fingers, people would like it. I mean, at the end of the day, if people don't like it, I don't care. But, you know what I mean? Like,
but it's a nice byproduct if it happens.
Exactly, yeah. Like, if it's on the table later on and someone goes, oh, I like it, then fantastic.
Yeah. Nice.
This is kind of what I remember about this other very popular artist that goes by Shen Comics. Heard of that one?
Oh yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Binty?
Shen. Again, my doggy brain can't remember.
I'll get you the link, but keep going.
Thank you.
Libra.
Anyway, from what I found out about Shen Comics, because I was like, oh, I know this artist. It turns out that when they got really, when they started to get noticed, apparently they were in a really fucked up part of their lives, and they were they were working with those emotions and just making all these comics for expression, and people were digging it. And now that's gone because they got through that kind of hill. Sorry, what the fuck is wrong with my words? They got over their shit, and because they were able to get over it and be in a more optimistic place in their life, now it's a very different sort of tone. But it is an example of how people can just do a thing for themselves, and then you could actually look at these other people, and you can just look at these people and say, yeah, this is a bit of their journey that we actually get to see. I think it's really cool.
Oh, I know this person. It's the bicycle person, isn't it?
Yes, it is the bicycle person.
Yeah, yep. I know exactly what you're talking about now, yeah.
Artists who do this shit for years and years, and I mean fucking years, and if they're really genuine, sometimes you could actually track like how they may be doing in their lives. Like Eminem's arc has been really fucking interesting. He goes from these hard diss tracks of certain people to just being like, nah. And like the biggest example is the problems with his mom. And even like the problems with things he's said and done in his own music. I'll just cap it off like with the easiest example. Are both of you aware of the song Stan?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay. All right. So I think neither of you are aware that he pretty much made what I prefer to call a sequel to that song. And
That I didn't know.
yeah, so the entire song is based around Stan's brother stalking Eminem, breaking into his house, and kidnapping him to get revenge for his brother because he feels like he so callously allowed him to kill himself. And it is really and it's really something because he's pretty much like a big reflection on like all the stuff he said about like anybody and everybody and how he has hurt people. And at the end of the song, the guy just gets away with killing him and himself by driving off a bridge into a river. It's really, really intense. It's like an admission, and it's like an admission without like self-flagellation, I feel, which is really strange. Yeah. But it's kind of like, yeah, I did this stuff and I recognize it and I'm moving on, and I get why people would maybe want to feel this way about me. So, like, with you doing this, and I guess what I'm saying is to be positive, twist ending, motherfuckers. Maybe positive is that right now, if you're going through a lot of this shit and you're exploring these really hard topics, there could be a year, there could be a turning point where maybe people can say, oh yeah, isn't that when the artist like started to report feeling like better about life and stuff? And you know what? I'm hoping for that. I really am.
Hell yeah. I am too. And I think sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, it's crazy how art can really kind of do that, kind of.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I know we're a little bit tight on time, but I do have one or two questions that I think we can squeeze in. The first one is from Max Velocity, and it is, what's a specific TF-related person or thing that you discovered on FA for which you're thankful?
TF-related person or thing?
Yeah, I can go first, actually. So it's not quite FA, but I'm going to use it anyways. I met a really good friend of mine through TF Spot, that wonderful, wonderful website. And this friendship continued on for Affinity. But it's funny, it started out with one of those like, hey messages, kind of. It wasn't just hey, like it was an actual like proper like introduction kind of thing. And, I think you can have a very spotty track record with just like kind of cold messaging people and getting to know them. But in this case, this friend of mine has ended up being a really close friend and would not have connected without transformation and like seeing my stuff and just starting to talk with me. And it was very like clear to me early on that this was someone with like a very interesting mind, a brain and a soul, as it were. And he's someone who's ended up being like my roommate at multiple conventions, and I've like even stopped and just seen him in the midst of very long road trips. So I'm just very thankful for him in particular, and I would say that would be the person I'd mention. And I realized I didn't say his name at the beginning. He goes by Happy Shiba online, but yeah, I'm very thankful for him. Very, very thankful.
Well, it took a bit of thinking, but it's Griff. I didn't it's hard to. I didn't discover him on FA. It was on fucking transfer, but because I went on FA, actually talked for a while, and I have not spoken to him for a long time, or at least not very much recently at all. But there was a lot that came out of that, and I mean, now people like compare my work to his, which still feels very wrong, but hey, he did offer me straight up tips and advice that I still use, and it makes for things that I really like, and it turns out other people seem to like it too. So yeah, I will say that much. But if I want to get really specific to the question, and it's like, oh well, that's not something you discovered on FA, I would say that Ranzab, because I discovered he was on FA, thought he was only on a website, and I'm like, I can find this stuff here too, and that was the big duh moment.
Nice. How about you, Binty?
For me, I guess it has to be, there's a couple people that come to my mind, for different reasons, but I think one of them that kind of made me, one of them that really sticks out to me is Kuma. Mainly because back in the day when he was active and stuff, his stuff was very inspirational. I liked how it looked. It was very kind of cartoony, but it had a nice form to it. But it was also the fact of, I actually, when I was a nobody, I actually got to talk to him, and he was really nice actually, and really kind of encouraged me and such. And it was just like that inspiration that kept me going, as well as the fact of I got to interact with some other people like Sabretooth Emmet, I think they're called.
I remember them. Oh, I miss their art.
I know, they were a huge inspiration to me, and they were just lovely. It was their personality that shined as well as their art, and I got to commission them, and they were just lovely throughout, like all the way through. And another person who's thankfully still active is Silverclaw, one. Yes, I think it is on FA.
Yeah, Ember.
Yeah, absolute huge fan of their stuff. I absolutely love their characters. It was their characters again that obviously their TF stuff is amazing, and I absolutely love their style and art, but it was the characters they had that really stuck with me as well, that was in a TF setting. Like Sam being a werewolf and stuff, which funny enough I just realised I can see where I get my inspiration from. Oops. But they've been lovely to talk to as well. It's just the fact that I'm not much of a social butterfly, but these people have really stuck to me. Especially since I've been on FA, and I was like, oh, I don't know who I am or my identity, and oh, I don't know what sort of TFs to do. I can see where, if I'm thinking back on it, I can see where spits and spats of their traits and styles have been inspired into my art throughout the time on FA.
No, that's awesome. I'm really glad that those people have like impacted you in those ways too. So, and then last question, from other side, what do you think about using your in real life self or something close to it as the TF subject in your art or commissions? Yay or nay? I mean, I'm just gonna sit here and be like, I think it's a yes. I think Binty knows that in particular. I don't know what else to say.
I'm going to assume that the only reason that question was asked is to get somebody else's response to the answer, because if nobody's listened to you for like, what the fuck? God damn.
Well, it was a question from the server for everyone, so like it can be a variety of answers, and actually there was actually a really interesting amount of discourse on the server about it. But yeah, for me it's extremely obvious. So, how about you two?
Go, Binty. What do you think?
I do, but it's kind of like I really like using myself. It's before I'd be like nah, but actually, funny enough, in recent years I've been yay. Like I want to be TF'd now. Like I used to be really against it in a way. I didn't actually enjoy it. I just did it because I didn't have any characters that fitted it, and I'll just use my old self, for example, even though I didn't really enjoy it. But in recent times I've gone, actually I want to be, I mean, my actual persona now is Ellie the werewolf. So which is actually just me. It is the self-insert. It's my /persona. I do like it. I just think I think now that I've accepted myself, it's just fun to explore that aspect in a way.
Yeah, I love that. With it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I'm glad to hear about that.
Oh yeah. And you, Libra? Yeah, yay or nay?
Yeah, I'm good with it now. It's a very interesting thing to just see now. There is some stuff in the Venn diagram between Binty and myself that I'm noticing. And it's not that I was really against it, I just was really like, meh, whatever. And I was a little like, uneasy about it. But, I have to admit that it's been fun to do. But leaning into it more lately, yes, I am. So yes, yeah. I am just dandy with it.
Yeah. I think my favorite TF of you, Libra, is you turning into Alan.
That's really... Okay, I don't. I think the artist would want me to maybe share it, but I might not. So I'll keep you guessing.
Yeah, keep them guessing.
I just went into a Discord server. A small amusing exchange had resulted in my Sona being Alan
from Smiling Friend.
Yeah, from Smiling Friend specifically, and I didn't think that I would appreciate it as much as I do right now. Especially last night when I was feeling like shit, and the only thing I could eat, the only thing that I could that seemed to sate me at all
was cheese.
It was cheese.
I just wanted my cheese.
I just wanted my cheese. It was the only thing I wanted.
Binty, have you seen Smiling Friends?
I'm so sorry, I haven't. I'm
okay.
I'm an absolute uncultured swine.
That is okay.
The last modern thing I've watched is Delicious in Dungeons, or that's uncultured.
Which is an excellent thing to be watching. Have you read the manga?
Yes.
Okay. Then all three of us in this call have. Libra got me to read the manga, and I fucking devoured it, and I'm so glad that I did. All the people who are listening to this who have not read the manga but are watching this show, you have no idea what you're in for, and I'm delighted for that.
You know what's really funny? The reason I read the manga was because of Libra. Like, I remember who was it with? Was it with Straws TF? I think it was.
There was someone, I remember it came up in one of our episodes.
It was 5 seconds in, you were talking about it, and I was like, I need to read it. Because it just came up on Netflix, and I was like,
yeah,
I'm going to read it.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
Wow, that's cool. I'm happy for that. See, it works eventually. When I say read the thing, read Berserk.
No.
Read Berserk.
I've got a friend who's absolutely obsessed with that.
Listen, I'm not obsessed with it. I love it. I have a deep love for it. I know people say like, haha, I'm obsessed, and sometimes they really are, and it's unhealthy, and sometimes it's just like a really, I don't know. Without nitpicking on that too much, I just have a really deep love and appreciation, and it really shapes things that I want to express and make, and like the kind of stuff that I really value in a story, and the kind of things that can be expressed. And man, to say the least, it's fucking bold. You can discuss like the problematic aspects of it, how it started versus how it became, but it's fucking honest, like through and through. And I think I cannot imagine it any other way. And because of that, I really love it. And I think it's just worth the harrowing experience, because it's not the thing that people painted as like bleakly, like just bleakness. People would call it grimdark. That's incorrect. Actually, this is actually very incorrect. But without getting into that, I'm glad you read that. I'm glad you read the manga for Delicious in Dungeon, because now you get to watch everybody be like, "Oh my god, did you see the next episode? This is so wild!" And you're like, You think this blows your fucking mind?
Honestly, what was it? The last couple of episodes before season 1 ended, I was just sat there like, I know what's gonna happen, and I'm just like, my head and my heart is not ready, and my girlfriend's just watching it, and I'm like. I
read the first volume years ago when I had no idea what this was. Nobody did. And I'm like, this is very cute. And then I kept getting 1 volume per year for like Christmas. Then eventually I was like, man, I just want to catch up. And then I did. And
oh my god.
And exactly. So yeah.
It's
read
quite
those
funny
things.
Because, quick little note, just as Dungeons that came out on Netflix, I literally was working on the comic at the exact same time, and there's bits in it that I'm looking at and I'm like, I swear I'm not copying it. It like, there's concept arts of like some of the characters I've done, and even the main character even looks similar to a mixture between 2 characters from that show / manga, and I'm like, no.
Hey, even if it wasn't intentional or it was subconscious or whatever, it's still yours at the end of the day. We all take from things that we love and put them into things. I mean, Christ, the number of D&D campaigns where I've ripped off plots from better movies or TV shows is infinite. So, a long way of saying it's still yours and it's still good.
It's really funny because there's a really good example. There's literally like there's an albino orc in my comic. There's and then it came up on the episode.
There is, yeah.
I was like, no! I literally screamed no. So I had to go back and change it.
You got timestamps on your files. It's fine.
That's true.
For the record, I came up with it for a split second first. Ish.
Yeah. Ish. Oh, man. Awesome. Well, that was all the questions I had. I don't know if you have any questions for Libra and I before you have to go, Binty.
Now I'm on the subject. Favorite character from Dungeon Meshi?
Oh, this is hard. That's such a hard question. I don't know. Libra, do you have an immediate answer?
Yeah, for some reason, and there's a part of me that feels weirdly simple about it, but it's Marcille.
Yes.
Marcille is really like, oh, she's funny, haha, tee. And listen, another thing you people need to understand about the value of reading the manga is that there is very few manga that can actually make me laugh. On my own, reading it by my goddamn self and filling the air with any degree of laughter. And Marcille is fucking hilarious.
She is.
Oh, I
but
love
she
her.
cares so much in a way that creates it just resonates with me, and I feel so bad for her sometimes. And you know, I think she's somebody that I'd want to just help, kind of be there for a little while. I just really care about her, because hey, all you people that are patiently waiting for, you know, the animation to be finished, and thank fuck you people are getting it decently animated, because it ain't Berserk that's getting it.
Thank you, Trigger.
When you find out what her whole like what her raison d'etre, I can't do fucking French, deal with it. I'm an American. No, not I'm an American. I'm a Spanish guy. Fuck you, I'm Cuban. The reason for her doing all of this and what she gets wrapped up in, I wish I could talk about it, but I feel her so much, and I can't get over her.
I love her. She is also my favorite. I'll give a different answer because I think enough has been said, but she is definitely my favorite too for all of those reasons. The other two that I will mention to contrast a little bit. So I love Itsutsumi. Izutsumi is iconic. She's a queen. She deserves everything good in life. And my favorite thing about her is when everyone is reacting to something and it will just show a blank face for Izutsumi, and the emotion they'll just write down is Izutsumi. I love her. Just absolutely incredible.
She's such a mood.
She's such a fucking mood. I love her. The other person I'll mention is Mithrin. When Mithrin was introduced at first, I didn't really know what to think about him, and like how his like story was gonna go, and like how the arc would be. But I can't really talk about it because you have to like get into his backstory. But my fucking god, his story really took me in directions that I didn't think it would, and it gave me so much appreciation for him. So, you know, for anyone when he shows up, because I don't even remember if he's shown. I think he has shown up so far in the show, but when like you get to find out what his deal is, y'all aren't ready. So I'm really much a fan of him.
Yeah,
so.
I think that's a great choice, because when you were seeing this guy and you're like, what the fuck is wrong with this guy? And I'm just waiting for it to hit you. I'm just fucking waiting, and then you're like, oh. Fuck!
Oh, fuck!
There you go. That's it. But here, I'll be kind of a pleb. Funny enough, Izutsumi didn't really come close to being my favorite, but when she showed up, I found her very likable in general. And because I found her very likable, I'm like, you've given me all these things, you've given me all these monsters, you've given me all these great ideas, you've given me all these characters, and you're giving me a cat girl too.
Yeah.
Wow. How the fuck? It's great. It's wonderful.
Spoil.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. It's always a pleasure to have you, Binty. And I know, some of the handles have changed slightly. So if people are looking for your stuff online, where can they find you?
This flavor of the month will be Werewolfaboo on Twitter, and FA and Patreon are Bintrong Boss, and that might change in the next recording session, but
we'll never know. You're going to keep us guessing. So.
Exactly. I got to keep you guys going. Got to keep the furry fandom active. Come on, chop chop.
I love it.
Look,
I love it.
I live up to the TF, literally.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much again for coming on. And thank you, everyone, for listening to this week's episode. I hope you enjoyed listening to it as much as we did recording. And, of course, please go read Delicious in Dungeon if you haven't already. We've made a big point of saying you should fucking read it, and you fucking should read it. But in the meantime, I hope you all have a wonderful week and, stay hydrated, get 8 hours of rest if you can do Ox Sleep Fur, and stay TFy, and we'll see you back here next week.
Read Berserk. Bye.